Most people don't fail because they lack talent. They fail quietly, slowly, almost politely. Success is rarely blocked by one big mistake. It's usually held back by small habits we repeat every day without noticing. The first silent habit is waiting to feel ready. Growth never starts with confidence. Confidence comes after action, not before it. The second is confusing busy with productive. Movement feels good, but direction is what actually moves you forward. The third is avoiding discomfort. Every meaningful change feels uncomfortable at first. If it doesn't, you're probably not growing. Fourth, seeking approval instead of alignment. When your decisions depend on applause, you lose your own voice. The fifth habit is short-term thinking. Chasing quick wins often costs you long-term trust, skill, and momentum. Sixth, not finishing what you start. Ideas are common. Execution is rare. Finishing builds self-trust. Seventh, blaming circumstances. Responsibility is heavy, but it's also empowering. Ownership changes everything. Eighth, learning without applying. Information alone doesn't change lives, action does. Ninth, surrounding yourself with comfort, not challenge. You grow faster when someone expects more from you than you expect from yourself. And finally, forgetting your why. When the purpose fades, discipline fades with it. Success isn't loud. It's built quietly, daily, by the habits no one is watching. Change the habits, and you change the direction of your life. Success is rarely stopped by one dramatic failure. Most people imagine that if they do not reach their goals, it must be because of a single bad decision, a missed opportunity, or an external setback. In reality, progress is usually slowed by small, quiet habits that feel harmless in the moment. These habits do not look like mistakes. They look like routines, preferences, and patterns that slowly shape direction. Because they are subtle, they often go unchallenged. Over time, they create distance between where someone is and where they want to be. Unnoticed habits have power because they operate daily. Waiting for the perfect moment, postponing difficult conversations, choosing comfort over effort, or telling yourself you will start tomorrow do not feel like failure. They feel reasonable, but repeated daily they compound. Each delay trains the mind to avoid action. Each excuse becomes easier to repeat. Without realizing it, a person can spend years preparing instead of building, planning instead of executing, and learning instead of applying. Big failures often bring clarity. When something goes wrong in a visible way, it forces reflection. People reassess, adapt, and often come back stronger. Silent habits do the opposite. They hide progress leaks. For example, staying busy without clear priorities creates the illusion of movement while producing little result. Checking messages constantly breaks focus but feels productive. Saying yes too often to please others slowly pulls attention away from what actually matters. None of these behaviors look dangerous on their own, yet together they drain momentum. Another quiet habit that blocks success is avoiding discomfort. Growth always demands friction. Learning a new skill, building a business, or changing direction requires feeling uncertain and exposed. The habit of choosing what feels safe over what is necessary keeps people stuck at familiar levels. Over time, comfort becomes a cage. The person may work hard, but only within limits they already know. Success demands stepping beyond those limits repeatedly. There is also the habit of externalizing responsibility. Blaming timing, the market, other people, or luck can protect the ego, but it weakens progress. When responsibility is placed outside, control disappears with it. Progress accelerates only when someone accepts that improvement starts with their own choices, even in imperfect conditions. This shift is rarely dramatic. It happens when a person notices how often they explain instead of adjust. Unnoticed habits also shape identity. The actions repeated daily send signals to the mind about who someone is. Finishing tasks builds trust with oneself. Leaving things half done creates doubt. Speaking about goals without acting on them trains the brain to associate words with inaction. Over time, this affects confidence, not because of failure, but because of inconsistency. Success, then, is not usually about avoiding one big collapse. It is about paying attention to the small behaviors that quietly decide direction. When those habits are brought into awareness, they can be changed. And when they change, progress often feels less like a breakthrough and more like a steady, inevitable climb. Many people believe confidence must come first, that once they feel ready and certain, action will naturally follow. This belief sounds reasonable, but it quietly holds people back. Confidence is not a starting point, it is a result. It is built through movement, through trial, through stepping forward before everything feels clear. Waiting for confidence often means waiting forever, because confidence is shaped by experience, not by thought. Action forces clarity. When someone takes even a small step, the mind begins to adjust. Uncertainty shrinks because reality replaces imagination. Fear is usually strongest before action, when the outcome exists only in the head. Once movement begins, the fear loses some of its power. The person starts to learn what works and what does not. That learning becomes evidence, and evidence slowly turns into belief in one's own ability. Confidence grows from proof. Every action taken creates a data point. Completing a task, having a difficult conversation, launching a project, or showing up consistently sends a message to the brain that says, "I can do this." Even imperfect action counts. In fact, imperfect action is often more powerful because it builds resilience. When someone acts without being fully prepared and survives the outcome, their confidence increases not because everything went well, but because they handled it. Inaction, on the other hand, feeds doubt. The longer a person waits, the more pressure they place on the future moment. That imagined moment becomes heavy, unrealistic, and intimidating. The mind starts to ask questions like, "What if I fail?" Or "What if I am not good enough?" These questions grow in the absence of action. Without real experience to challenge them, they feel true. This is how hesitation turns into habit. Action also changes identity. When someone acts consistently, even in small ways, they begin to see themselves differently. They are no longer someone who plans or dreams, but someone who does. This shift is subtle but powerful. Identity-based confidence lasts longer than emotional confidence. It does not depend on mood or motivation. It is rooted in behavior that has been repeated often enough to feel natural. Another important truth is that confidence does not eliminate fear. Action teaches that fear can exist without stopping progress. Many confident people still feel nervous, uncertain, or uncomfortable. The difference is that they no longer treat those feelings as signals to stop. They have learned through action that fear is part of growth, not a warning sign of danger. That understanding only comes from experience, not from thinking. Over time, action creates momentum. Momentum makes future action easier. What once felt overwhelming becomes routine. Confidence then appears not as a sudden boost, but as a quiet certainty. It shows up in how someone makes decisions, how they handle setbacks, and how they trust themselves to adapt. All of it traces back to one simple pattern: move first, learn second, confidence follows. Discomfort is often misunderstood. Many people treat it as a warning, a signal that something is wrong and should be avoided. This instinct makes sense on the surface. Discomfort feels unsettling, unfamiliar, and sometimes frightening. But in most cases, especially when it comes to personal growth, discomfort is not a sign of danger. It is a sign that something new is happening. It appears when the mind and body are being asked to operate beyond what is familiar. Growth demands change, and change disrupts routine. The brain is designed to protect what it knows, not what is possible. When a person steps into new responsibility, learns a new skill, or challenges an old belief, the brain reacts by creating discomfort. This reaction is not about safety. It is about uncertainty. The unfamiliar feels risky simply because it has not been experienced before. If growth always felt comfortable, it would mean nothing new was happening. Discomfort shows up at the edge of progress. It appears when effort increases, when expectations rise, and when identity begins to shift. Speaking up when you usually stay quiet, committing to a goal that demands consistency, or letting go of habits that once provided comfort can all feel deeply uncomfortable. Yet these moments often mark turning points. The discomfort is evidence that old limits are being tested. Avoiding discomfort keeps life small. When choices are made only to maintain comfort, improvement slows, skills remain underdeveloped, potential stays unused. Comfort creates predictability, and predictability feels safe, but it also prevents expansion. Over time, this avoidance trains the mind to associate growth with threat, even when there is no real danger present. There is an important difference between harmful pain and productive discomfort. Growth-related discomfort challenges, but it does not damage. It stretches, but it does not break. Learning to recognize this difference is crucial. Productive discomfort usually comes with effort, learning, and temporary stress. It fades as competence increases. What once felt hard becomes normal through repetition. That transition is how progress becomes permanent. Discomfort also builds resilience. Each time someone stays present through unease instead of escaping it, they strengthen their ability to adapt. They learn that they can handle more than they thought. This builds trust in themselves. Confidence grows not from ease, but from surviving challenge and realizing it did not cause harm. Many breakthroughs are preceded by discomfort that feels unnecessary in the moment. Quitting an unfulfilling path, starting something uncertain, or changing long-held routines often creates internal resistance. That resistance is the mind negotiating with change. On the other side of that negotiation is clarity, strength, and growth. Discomfort is not the enemy of progress. It is part of the process. When understood correctly, it becomes guidance rather than a barrier. It signals that learning is taking place, that limits are being redrawn, and that growth is unfolding, even if it does not feel good yet. Short-term wins are attractive because they offer quick feedback. They feel rewarding, visible, and reassuring. A fast result creates the sense that progress is happening, and in many situations that feeling can be motivating. But when short-term wins become the main focus, they often pull attention away from what actually sustains success over time. Long-term purpose works differently. It does not always provide immediate reward, but it offers direction, consistency, and meaning, which are far more powerful in the long run. Purpose acts as an internal compass. It guides decisions when outcomes are uncertain and rewards are delayed. When someone is clear on why they are doing what they do, they are less likely to be distracted by every opportunity that promises quick results. Short-term wins often ask for compromise. They tempt people to cut corners, rush growth, or chase validation instead of substance. Purpose helps resist that temptation because it measures success by alignment, not speed. When decisions are driven by short-term gains, progress can become fragile. What works quickly may not work sustainably. Skills built only for immediate reward often lack depth. Relationships formed for quick benefit rarely last. Even financial wins can become unstable when they are not supported by long-term thinking. Purpose, on the other hand, encourages patience. It supports building systems, habits, and skills that compound over time, even when progress feels slow. Long-term purpose also provides stability during difficult phases. Every meaningful journey includes periods where effort outweighs reward. In those moments, short-term motivation fails. If the only reason for continuing is a quick win, persistence collapses when results disappear. Purpose keeps effort alive when feedback is quiet. It reminds a person that the current struggle is part of a larger path, not a sign of failure. Another strength of purpose is how it shapes identity. When actions are connected to a deeper reason, work becomes more than a task. It becomes an expression of values. This creates consistency. A person guided by purpose shows up even when no one is watching. They make choices that protect long-term credibility, not just immediate advantage. Over time, this consistency builds trust, both internally and externally. Short-term wins often depend on external conditions. Timing, trends, and approval can influence them. Purpose is internal. It remains steady regardless of circumstances. This makes it more reliable as a driver of behavior. People who stay connected to purpose adapt better to change because they are not attached to a single outcome. They adjust strategies while keeping direction intact. Long-term purpose does not reject short-term wins. It puts them in context. Wins become checkpoints, not destinations. They are useful, but they do not define success. When purpose leads, progress becomes sustainable. Growth feels less like a race and more like a journey with direction, depth, and lasting impact. Taking ownership changes the way progress is experienced. When someone fully owns their actions, outcomes, and responsibilities, they stop waiting for permission, excuses, or perfect conditions. Ownership creates a shift from reaction to intention. Instead of asking who is responsible or what went wrong, the focus moves to what can be done next. This mindset alone increases momentum because energy is no longer wasted on explanation or blame. Finishing what you start is a powerful extension of ownership. Starting is easy. Beginnings are fueled by excitement, ideas, and possibility. Finishing requires discipline, patience, and the ability to stay engaged after motivation fades. Many people carry unfinished tasks, half-built projects, and abandoned goals. Each unfinished item quietly drains confidence. It sends a message to the mind that effort does not always lead to completion. Over time, this weakens trust in oneself. Completion builds self-belief. When something is finished, even imperfectly, it creates closure. That closure matters. It frees mental space and reinforces the idea that action leads somewhere. Momentum grows when the brain learns that effort results in completion, not abandonment. This makes the next task feel lighter, more manageable, and less intimidating. Ownership also removes dependence on external validation. When responsibility is fully accepted, progress no longer depends on recognition or approval. The focus becomes internal standards rather than external reactions. This strengthens consistency. A person who owns their work does not quit simply because it becomes uncomfortable or uninteresting. They continue because they have committed to the outcome. Finishing builds rhythm. Each completed task creates a sense of forward motion. That motion reduces hesitation. Instead of constantly questioning whether to continue, the habit of finishing makes continuation automatic. Momentum is not about speed. It is about continuity. Small, completed actions done repeatedly create more progress than large bursts of effort followed by long pauses. There is also a practical advantage to finishing. Completion provides feedback. A finished project reveals what worked and what did not. An unfinished one offers only assumptions. Growth requires real data, and data comes from seeing things through to the end. Ownership ensures that learning happens, not just effort. Avoiding ownership often looks like waiting for better conditions, waiting for more time, more resources, or more clarity. While preparation has its place, it becomes a barrier when it replaces action. Ownership says start where you are, finish what you can, and adjust along the way. This approach builds adaptability and confidence together. Momentum is not created by talent or motivation alone. It is built by reliable behavior. When someone repeatedly takes responsibility and completes what they begin, they develop a reputation with themselves. That reputation becomes a quiet source of strength. Over time, momentum feels natural, not forced, because it is supported by trust, consistency, and follow-through. Who you become is influenced less by single decisions and more by the conditions you live in every day. Two of the strongest forces shaping those conditions are your environment and your sense of why. They work quietly but constantly, influencing how you think, what you tolerate, and what you pursue. Often, people focus only on willpower, believing that discipline alone will carry them forward. In reality, environment and purpose do much of the work behind the scenes. Your environment includes the people you spend time with, the information you consume, and the spaces you move through daily. These elements send repeated signals about what is normal and what is possible. When you are surrounded by people who complain, avoid responsibility, or settle for less, those behaviors begin to feel acceptable. Not because you agree with them consciously, but because repetition lowers resistance. On the other hand, being around people who take action, think long-term, and expect more from themselves raises your own standards naturally. Physical environment matters as well. Cluttered spaces can reflect and reinforce scattered thinking. A chaotic routine makes focus harder than it needs to be. Small changes like structuring time, organizing workspaces, or reducing distractions can dramatically improve consistency. These adjustments do not require motivation. They reduce friction. When the environment supports the behavior you want, progress becomes easier and more automatic. Your why gives meaning to effort. Without it, even small challenges feel heavy. When the reason behind your actions is unclear, discipline relies entirely on mood and energy. This makes progress fragile. A strong why does not eliminate difficulty, but it explains it. It turns struggle into something purposeful rather than pointless. When effort is connected to a deeper reason, persistence increases because the work feels necessary, not optional. The why also shapes decisions when shortcuts appear. Short-term comfort often competes with long-term growth. Without a clear reason to stay the course, it becomes easy to justify quitting, delaying, or compromising. A strong sense of purpose acts as an internal filter. It helps decide what to say no to, what to endure, and what to prioritize. Over time, these decisions accumulate and define character. Environment and why reinforce each other. A supportive environment makes it easier to stay connected to purpose. A clear why helps you choose better environments. When both are aligned, change accelerates. When they are in conflict, progress slows. For example, a person may have big goals but stay in surroundings that constantly pull them back into old habits. In that case, effort feels exhausting because it is always fighting resistance. Becoming someone new rarely happens through sudden transformation. It happens through repeated exposure and consistent intention. Change who surrounds you. Change what you allow into your daily life. Clarify why you are moving forward. These shifts may seem small, but over time, they reshape identity. Who you become is not an accident. It is the result of the environments you accept and the reasons you choose to live by. So if you want change, don't look for a dramatic moment or a sudden breakthrough. Look at what surrounds you and what drives you. Choose environments that push you forward, not pull you back. Hold on to a reason that matters on the hard days, not just the easy ones. Because when your surroundings support you and your purpose is clear, growth stops feeling forced and starts becoming inevitable.